What's up, y'all? I'm back and we are ready to dive into chapter 8 of Esther. So this is a series of who is Esther in the Bible. Like, who is it, right? So when we finish chapter 7, as I can read the last verse, they hanged Haman on the gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. So y'all remember the whole story of how Haman didn't like the fact that Mordecai wouldn't bow to him because he was a Jew and yada yada yada. He planned this whole thing against him, and long story short, it turned out to be not good for him because he got hung on the gallows that he created for Mordecai. But if you really want to get into the story, you know what I'm saying, you gotta go ahead and go back and watch chapters 1 through 7 because you're really not about to understand chapter 8 when I get into it. But guys, I am ready to get started. I'm excited. Like, I really want to see how this chapter ends so I can make a full synopsis of all of this. You know what I mean? So let's look into this. All right, y'all, let's dive into chapter 8. Chapter 8, verse 1. That same day, King Ahasuerus awarded Queen Esther the estate of Haman, the enemy of the Jews. Mordecai entered the king's presence because Esther had revealed her relationship to Mordecai. Verse 2, the king removed his signet ring he had recovered from Haman and gave it to Mordecai, and Esther put him in charge of Haman's estate. So let's just pause right there. Once he was hanged on the gallows, Haman that is, his estate was then given to Esther, and then Esther put Mordecai in charge. Lord, Lord, Lord. So all this man's homes, property, animals, whatever plunder he had now belonged to Mordecai. Would you believe that? Like, the same man that he just planned to hang the gallows on. Like, I mean, he was prepped. He was ready to go to King Ahasuerus about Mordecai. And now he's on a gallows. Now, Haman he don't even know what's going on. He dead. But now everything he owned belongs to the very man he planned and plotted to kill. Be careful, y'all. Verse 3. Then Esther addressed the king again. She fell at his feet, wept, and begged him to revoke the evil of Haman the Agagite and his plot he had devised against the Jews. The king extended the gold scepter toward Esther, so she got up and stood before the king. So at this point, Esther's like, I see what he's doing. Now's the right time. Let me get on my knees. She cried at his feet and was like, listen, I need you to take this decree that Haman put out and remove it from my people, because that's going to be the end of their existence in this city if that order is not revoked. She said, if it pleases the king and I have found favor before him, if the matter seems right to the king and I am pleasing in his eyes, let a royal edict be written. Let it revoke the documents the scheming Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, wrote to destroy the Jews who are in all the king's provinces. For how could I bear to see the disaster that would come on my people? How could I bear to see the destruction of my relatives? So at this point, Esther's getting pretty emotional. She's like, why? How could I sit here and watch my people die? How could I sit here and watch my family die? Like, these are her people. This is her ethnicity. This is her race. This is her culture. This is everything. And she's telling the king, look, though I'm in a good position with you, I cannot bear to see my people go down just because of some evil dude's plan because somebody didn't bow to him, right? All right, verse 7. King Ahasuerus said to Esther the queen and to Mordecai the Jew, look, I have given Haman's estate to Esther, and he was hanged on the gallows because he attacked the Jews. Write in the king's name whatever pleases you concerning the Jews, and seal it with a royal signet ring. A document written in the king's name and sealed with the royal signet ring cannot be revoked. Okay. So he was like, listen, I'm telling you, you can do whatever you want, and we're going to seal it with the royal signet ring. And after that, we can't revoke the order. On the 23rd day of the 3rd month, that is the month Sivan, the royal scribes were summoned. Everything was written exactly as Mordecai commanded for the Jews to the satraps, the governors, and the officials of the 127 provinces from India to Kush. The edict was written for each province in its own script, for each ethnic group in its own language, and to the Jews in their own script and language. Mordecai wrote in King Ahasuerus' name and sealed the edicts with the royal signet ring. He sent the documents by mounted couriers who rode fast horses bred in the royal stables. So pretty much, if you didn't get it, a new edict was written and it was translated to everybody from India to Kush, 127 provinces, and it was written in everybody's own language and their own script, and for each ethnic group. Pretty much English, Spanish, French, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was written in everybody's language. You get it? All right. Verse 11. The king's edict gave the Jews in each and every city the right to assemble and defend themselves, to destroy, kill, and annihilate every ethnic and provincial army hostile to them, including women and children, and to take their possessions as spoils of war. So now the king's edict was that instead of the Jews getting destroyed, the Jews had the right to destroy and annihilate every ethnic and provincial army hostile to them, and their women, their children, and they could take whatever possessions they wanted as spoils of war. So now Haman didn't even know what kind of damage he was doing in the beginning, but it really just turned around for the greater good for those people, because now they're protected and now they're on the winning side. So now the Jews are winning, right? So we're going to continue at verse 12. This would take place on a single day throughout all the provinces of King Ahasuerus on the 13th day of the 12th month, the month Adar. All right, so verse 13. A copy of the text issued as law throughout every province was distributed to all the peoples, so the Jews could be ready to avenge themselves against their enemies on that day. The couriers rode out in haste on their royal horses at the king's urgent command. The law was also issued in the fortress of Susa. Verse 15. Mordecai went from the king's presence clothed in royal purple and white, with a great gold crown and a purple robe of fine linen. Boy, the come up was real, okay? The come up was real. That boy left. Remember, at one point, if we were reading, this boy was in sackcloth and ashes because he was so devastated about what was going to happen to his community of people, right? But now he's leaving the very same king's presence in royal purple and white, with a great gold crown and a purple robe of fine linen. The come up is real. So it says, the city of Susa shouted and rejoiced, and the Jews celebrated with gladness, joy, and honor. In every province, in every city, wherever the king's command and his law reached, joy and rejoicing took place among the Jews. There was a celebration and a holiday, and many of the ethnic groups of the land professed themselves to be Jews because fear of the Jews had overcome them. Now, maybe people read this and skip over it because it just doesn't really seem like anything. But it said many of the ethnic groups of the land professed to be Jews because they were scared of the Jews. That is so influential, because in the beginning of these chapters, we were reading how the ethnic background was so hidden. It was hidden. Nobody wanted anybody to know that Esther was a Jew and this and that. And she got into the position, but, you know, her background was still hidden. And now that very hidden background that didn't want to be known, it's now known so well that people want to insinuate and be that same ethnic group because they're scared of that ethnic group because of the power that they've now received. So what was once hidden and, you know, covered up is now in broad daylight. And the people are just like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to just be a Jew right quick, because what y'all not going to do is annihilate me, my woman, and my children, and take my little plunder and my cows and my goat and my sheep. So you know what? I'm a Jew. Let's take it back with a little ancient history. Since Persian law allowed the state to take the property and possessions of condemned criminals, Ahasuerus had control over Haman's vast estate. He immediately gave it to Esther. Ahasuerus further honored Mordecai by giving him the signet ring, elevating him officially to the position Haman had held with the right to act in the name of the king. Esther also put him in charge of Haman's estate. The timing of this transition is not specified other than the immediate execution of Haman. The time elapsing between the edict of Haman would have been April 17, 474 BC, and the new edict issued by Mordecai on the 23rd day of the third month would be June 25, 474 BC, which was 2 months and 10 days. Sivan, during which Pentecost, or the Festival of Weeks, is observed as a harvest celebration to honor the giving law at Sinai, corresponds with mid-May to mid-June on the modern calendar. Esther moved forward to circumvent Haman's deadly assault on the Jews. Knowing that Persian laws could not be repealed or changed, she suggested the issue of another edict. She did not blame the king for the earlier edict, but placed all the blame on Haman. And for the final ancient artifact, the great gold crown worn by Mordecai is not the crown or royal turban cited elsewhere in the book, and is distinctive from that worn by the king and queen, but the royal headdress did set Mordecai apart as a royal favorite. Many of the ethnic groups of the land professed themselves to be Jews, which may have meant that they pretended to be Jews for security reasons, or that they were sympathetic with the Jews and identified with them because of the compassion for them. Or perhaps the people even felt not being a Jew was dangerous. The reason given in the text is their fear of the Jews. This is another reversal or irony. It was once dangerous and life-threatening to be a Jew. Now it was dangerous to not be a Jew. Tune in for chapter 9. Bye, guys.